does secure attachment look like in children and adults? How do you know if you're securely attached, or how can you move towards that? Mended Light. Hello, Light Menders, and welcome to our series on attachment theory. And we're going to talk today about secure attachment. I think a lot of us have a baseline understanding of what insecure attachment looks like, what it is to be avoidant, what it is to be anxious. What we hear from a lot of people is, I don't even know what healthy connection looks like, right? And so today we're going to be talking about secure attachment and what that looks like in children and adults and how to move towards it.
Well, and we're going to be doing a series on attachment. So this is kind of fun. It's more of a therapeutic way of talking about healthy relationships. But through all our videos, we talk about love and unconditional love and conditional love.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these terms that we're talking about can be switched out. Like it's the exact same principles, just from a different perspective.
Yes.
Tell me more.
So attachment theory, John Bowlby comes up with secure attachment, insecure anxious, and insecure avoidant. And now we also have insecure disorganized, which kind of blends avoidant and anxious. But today we're going to talk about secure, which I already said.
Well, and we typically drop the insecure part and we just say avoidant, anxious, disorganized.
Well, we want to be moving towards secure attachment because when we feel safe, when we feel loved, when we feel supported, we can handle life's challenges more readily and with greater resilience. And what this boils down to is, I see you, I hear you, and I'm on your team. Like that's the emotional climate of the whole thing.
Okay, so what this feels like in your own body is when you're securely attached, you are aware of your own needs and you feel safe to communicate those needs. And if you grew up in a climate, and we're not talking about 100% of the time, right? In therapeutic terms, it's called attunement, right?
Yeah.
Attachment comes from childhood, from the environment you grew up in. And no parent is going to be attuned to their children's needs all the time.
Yes.
Right? Because life happens and there's stress at work and you're tired and
You can do it. I know you can.
and life just happens.
You did it!
There's stress at work and you're tired and the washing machine breaks and your house floods and like whatever it is, like life is real and it just happens. And as parents, sometimes we are stressed out. And while we are responsible for the climate in the home, there is zero expectation to be the perfect parent or to be attuned all the time.
In fact, if children experience feeling loved, supported, and nurtured, they found 50% of the time they can develop secure attachments.
Yeah. And so it's an overall climate that we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
So in childhood, you learn that, I have needs. It's okay to have those needs. I have emotions. It's okay to have those emotions. And then when I express them to my caregivers, like I am met with love and kindness and understanding.
Now, some of you are watching this and saying, I didn't learn that in childhood.
Yeah.
That was not my childhood. You're right. You're referring to insecurely attached homes.
Right. And all of this is unconscious, right? So on an emotional level, you experience those emotions and you say, it's safe for me to express those in my relationships with my friends, with my partner, as an adult, right? So it comes from childhood and it transitions into adulthood. And so it looks different. Like we're going to talk about these different attachments and it looks different in childhood than it does in adulthood. But it is the transition between the two. So what I'm getting at is in childhood, like all of this is unconscious, right? But when you get into adulthood and if you experience secure attachment, you will be like, I'm going to talk to my partner about this. I'm going to talk to my loved one about this. And it's okay. I'm going to turn towards them because it's safe. And if you didn't experience that secure attachment in childhood, you might avoid or you might get anxious.
Well, and all of this that you're talking about, the idea is that your primary attachments with your caregivers is foundational for your attachment style. And your attachment style is fluid, so if you're avoidant or anxious and you want to move to secure, you can, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Now, John Bowlby came up with attachment theory. Sue Johnson came up with emotionally focused therapy, recently passed away, may she rest in peace, but that's the application in therapy. We're going to be taking our cues from them, as well as Julie Manano in her book, Secure Love, that we have an entire podcast about on our membership where we cover this. But you have a quote from the book that you wanted to share.
Yeah. So I love the way that she sums this up because you're like, where do I fit? So in this series, we're going to be talking about anxious and avoidant, which are like two different ends of the spectrum. And then there's also disorganized. And disorganized is when you swing between anxious and avoidant. So that's like particularly challenging, right? But you learn all these terms and you're like, where do I fit in and what's going on? And The Secure Love is excellent. It's an excellent book to pick up. Or if you like listening to us on our membership site, you can listen to our podcast.
I love listening to us. I think our voices are very soothing.
Why is that so funny?
There's a paragraph from the Secure Love book that I'm going to read that like just basically sums it up in a really easy way to understand. And so it's talking about, in childhood. When you were sad, did your parents or caregivers consistently offer warmth or rejection? When you felt insecure, did you feel valued or pushed away? Did you get the message that your feelings matter and deserve attention? Or were you told, if not in so many words, that you're too much? Were your feelings validated and tended to? Or were you distracted from your feelings and told, don't cry, here, have a cookie? Or a third option, were you shamed and left alone with your feelings? Perhaps you need to go to your room to be angry. And so that's such an easy way to be like, okay, the overall climate of my childhood, how was I responded to?
In my case, it was a combination. My mother was, tell me about your feelings and what's going on with you, and also have a cookie.
Yeah.
Or have 6. That's where I developed my emotional eating. Continue.
Here's a really, really big point that I want to make, because especially if you watched our previous videos and you hear us talk about real love, which is unconditional love, versus conditional love. It's not that our caregivers or our parents didn't love us, right? And it's not that our caregivers or our parents didn't want us to be securely attached. They genuinely didn't know how. So if you're in the camp of the majority of us of not experiencing secure attachment, of caregivers or loved ones or parents not knowing how to meet your needs, your emotional needs, because the truth is they didn't know how to meet their own emotional needs, there is nothing wrong with that. It is just your opportunity to learn and grow and be different. And I will tell you, in the therapeutic world, that looks like if you have kids, and they do something that's emotionally triggering for you. And that looks like reparenting yourself in the moment, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you were told to go to your room, or if you were given a cookie or whatever. And so your kids do something that's emotionally triggering. And in that moment, you want to show up in the exact same way. And it's not per se that you want to, but that's the emotional reaction. That's the emotional response of like, no, I'm gonna treat you the way I was treated. And that's not even cognitive. That is just how you learn to handle those types of situations. And so taking a moment, like noticing that your emotions are elevated, taking a moment to breathe and to recognize what's going on for you. And if you can, and this takes a lot of effort, and so if you're in the middle of it, I want to praise you for like continuing to move forward, continuing to seek answers, continuing to provide something different for your children or your nieces or nephews or your partner than what was provided for you. It is challenging, but it is worth the effort to reparent yourself in the moment, to give yourself the love and compassion that you needed. And then once you've done that, you can turn around and give it to your child, your loved one, your partner. But that is the process. And we're going to talk more about how to do that. And then we go deep into it in our membership site. And I want to tell you, like, as challenging and uncomfortable as it feels, and even at times juvenile, I mean, like, I want to hear your experience, but I know, like, when I've gone through this emotional process for myself, I'm like, this feels so juvenile. Like, And that's, of course, judgment popping in. And maybe it's like my type A personality. Like, I should be more grown up than this. But you learn to do it. And you learn to do it first in really ungraceful ways. And then you learn to do it in graceful ways. And I straight up am like, I think I'm a superhero. Like, I think I can walk through walls now. And not actual walls, but emotional walls, right? Yeah. Like it is those dismantling of those constructs and those emotional walls that kept us safe at an earlier point in our life that are now keeping us stuck. And so it's worth the effort.
Well, and you asked my experience on it. My experience with it is life will humble you and make you teachable. Maybe if I lean into, I've learned things like you said that helped me before that now are holding me back. And I'm going to learn how to be securely attached. I'm going to learn how to be at peace with myself, how to give and receive love, and being open to that refining process, it generally is less painful than if you're fighting every step of the way.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the process. Let's talk about the finish line, right? A lot of people, most people, are not securely attached.
Like, okay, so in all the books I've read on secure attachment, like they quote this stat of like, oh, it's about 50-50. And I'm like, and I'm not a researcher.
Like 50 people are securely attached?
Yeah, 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not my anecdotal experience with people I know. Yeah.
I'm not a researcher. I'm not a therapist. Like, I've just lived life, and then I read a lot of books, and I'm like, I want to do this differently. Okay? But every single time I read that, I'm like, I don't know where they're getting these stats from. But that is just not experientially true.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that's my perspective, one, and two, you're not alone.
Yeah. So let's talk about what secure attachment looks like for whatever the percentage of in children, those who had that experience growing up. So first of all, for children, remember that the home environment doesn't have to be perfect. Yeah. It's all about the climate, right? If I grew up in Arizona, sunny climate, there are still rainy days. If the home climate is sunny, it's generally warm and loving, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be ugly moments, but overall it's a safe place. That helps create secure attachment.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. And an example of this is in the movie Mulan. Her father, at the beginning, at the end, he's very loving, he's very affirming, but he also has a moment where he's like, Mulan, you dishonor me, right? And then she feels very, she feels hurt by that. But overall, very warm and nurturing. She comes back from the war, saving his life, and you see an example of what a secure attachment looks like right here. He's been worried, sick about her, as she goes off to war, and he could be mad that she left without his consent to represent him. And she's hoping with these tokens I can win, make it right and smooth it over.
Mulan.
Father, I brought you the sword of Shan Yu and the crest of the Emperor. They're gifts to honor the Fa family.
The greatest gift and honor is having you for a daughter. I've missed you so.
I've missed you too, Baba.
Are you crying?
Inside.
Inside? I'm about to cry on the outside.
It's so beautiful, both the filming and then how he communicates. Like, and once
he just dumps the tokens.
Yeah.
He's like, pfft.
Yeah. So the way I interpret like that interaction is you don't have to earn my love. You don't have to show that you're good enough. You don't have to show that you're worthy.
Yeah.
Like, you being you is all I needed. And how many of us in our relationship with our parents or our caregivers or our partner have been seeking that.
Yeah.
And that's all we ever wanted, right? And if we have children, that's all that our children are seeking from us.
Yes.
Even though as children, we don't have the words to communicate that emotionally. Like, that is what's going on. And then we get into our 30s and we're like, child psychology,
Yeah. Well, and people connect with this because they had it or because they didn't have it and they wanted it. But the fact is, this is one of the reasons why I love to use media, is because we can see what it looks like and then we can create it in our own lives. So what it looks like for children in secure attachments: parents give correction and guidance, but they lead with safety and comfort, with listening and support. And the confidence in the children comes from being able to receive the support when it's available and self-regulate when it's not. And then the adults, instead of trying to correct the sadness, they let the children cry and they empathize. Yeah. Right? So that's what secure attachment looks like in children. In adults, if you were securely attached as a child and nothing derailed that later on in life, then you carry that into your relationships and it looks like this. You can reach for emotional connection and you can respond to bids for connection. You've let go of shame and the burden of self-doubt and self-loathing. You can successfully navigate rough patches. Here's something really important, because we assume you have a secure attachment, you've arrived and everything is lovely. Securely attached people still wrestle with insecurity. Securely attached people
still experience conflict.
They still experience conflict. Sometimes they lash out. Sometimes they withdraw. Sometimes, we still have our humanity, and humanity means sometimes we muck it up. But they're able to repair. They're able to take accountability. And they're able to connect knowing that it is safe to do so. So in a securely attached relationship, or if you are a securely attached person, You know how to make these sort of statements to get your needs met. And you're going to share these. These are from the book Secure Love.
So I love these statements so much. As someone who did not grow up in a climate of overall secure attachment, to like have this general list of needs listed, right? I was highlighting the ones, I'm like, oh, this is what I need, right? And so this isn't a ubiquitous list, but it's a wonderful place to start, because if you didn't experience it in childhood, it is something that you need to provide yourself, and you have the opportunity to provide yourself in adulthood.
Yeah.
So take this as a starting point. So you might say to your partner or your loved one or whoever it is you're trying to have a close relationship with, to feel close to you, I need to know that you value me and our relationship, or that you'll respond to me in moments where I reach for you, or you'll reach to me for support in times of need, or that you appreciate me and my efforts, or my needs as an individual matter to you, or you hold me in high esteem, or you're willing to see and understand me, or my feelings are valid to you, or that you respect me, or there's a clear path to pleasing you, or you see me as a successful partner, or I can trust you and your loyalty, or that you can trust my love and loyalty. And we talk a lot about the personalities course that we have, and it is just an easy, fun way to understand different personalities' values, which often correlate to different personalities' needs. And we're not going to go into it in this video because we need to wrap it up. But like reading that list, I was like, oh, I can see how certain ones of these correlate directly to like a dreamer, healer, thinker, closer. So the overall human experience is I need to be understood. I need to be seen. And between being seen and understood, I can be accepted.
Yeah.
And if I can be accepted for who I really am, that is love.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. I mean, the personalities, I think that's everything. It's so foundational. People don't even really understand until they do it. And they're like, oh, I can relate to and connect with almost anybody. And we'd like to invite you to try that course, that video course on our membership site, absolutely free. Link to do that is in the description below. Do you feel like you've experienced secure attachment? If so, with who? Let us know in the comments below, and what did that feel like? And if not, what would you like to experience in a relationship? Attachment theory is fascinating and so applicable. We've got an entire playlist covering the whole dang thing. Check it out. Until next time, folks, keep shining because we need your light.